I'm certain it can't just be me who feels like if something doesn't feel right, probably don't do it or just delay the actual doing of the thing. And that's exactly how I've been feeling the past, 2 to 3 weeks now of not uploading podcast episodes. But there was a good reason behind it. And like I said in the beginning, it just didn't feel right. I felt as though there was something missing with the Foundry Lab podcast episodes. And so I just spent a couple of weeks just trying to figure out what it is that is not sitting right with me. And I think I figured it out. I think I just needed a new system. I needed some some structure. Well, I had the structure, but I just needed to introduce podcast segments, and introduce interesting stuff that can keep people engaged. And so I'd like to believe now I've done that. And so with that said, hello and welcome to the Foundry Lab. This is episode 6 of the Foundry Lab, and it's what's crazy is that it's only been six episodes, and it's already been so much mentally, because it takes a lot. Especially, I'm trying to do this thing at a certain level. I'm trying to do it at a certain level of excellence, and so it requires me to really dive deep when it comes to improvement and just doubling down on what works and doing away with what doesn't. And I'm just obsessed and fixated with progress right now. I'm obsessed with being better and doing better and producing better looking podcast episodes, better sounding audio. So that has been my struggle ever since starting this Foundry Lab podcast. And so, I mean, the ideas are there, the vision is there, but now it's just a matter of putting that into action. And I mean, I can commend myself when it comes to one thing. I live by don't let ideas sit too long in your mind. And so that's a good and a bad thing. In my case, it's good that no idea sits too long in my head without me implementing it. So that's a good thing. So I can quickly find out if this is a good idea or not, because I I believe in direct action, immediate action, So that's the upside of it. You quickly learn. And so the downside of it is the fact that you go in something and you don't have all the answers. You don't have the vision. It develops as you go. And so when it comes to Foundry, it started off as a podcast, but now we are an ideas and innovation lab, where there's a whole host of stuff that we're going to do just to improve conditions on the African continent. And so now I find myself in a position where I'm spending sleepless nights trying to develop this thing. And what's crazy is that this is not the only thing, because now, like I said, as soon as I started working on the Foundry Lab, well, initially it wasn't Foundry Lab. You see, as I'm saying, it just took a shape, it just took a form of its own as I developed it, because it started off as just Foundry, the Foundry podcast, where now in the development, I find out that there's another podcast that is called Foundry. And so now I'm like, okay, let me put a spin to the spelling of Foundry and just do FNDRY, Foundry. And then I develop it some more, and I realized that actually, no, man, I want to do more. I don't just want to do a podcast. And so now it develops into an ideas and innovation lab. And so now I'm like, okay, within Foundry, there's so much marketing that's being done, or marketing that is in the pipeline, marketing that should be done and it's going to be done. So I realized there's so much marketing to be done, and there's so much investment to be made into equipment, cameras, and all kinds of equipment, just to ensure that we deliver a proper episode, a good looking podcast, that you can sit for hours and just enjoy, without any friction, So that's the idea. So now I'm like, okay, I have this marketing skill, because I studied marketing. And just a year ago, I attempted starting a digital marketing agency. That flopped, mainly because I chose the wrong people to work with. But now it's back in play, and that's also been just consuming a lot of my time, because now when I look at it, when I look at the Foundry and I look at Capreo Digital, Capreo Digital has I see more money there, or I see the same amount of money, but the money with Capreo Digital is just gonna come much sooner, and I need the money. I need the money for my personal issues and my personal lifestyle, and I need money to reinvest into Foundry, and so hence, I've just been spending a lot of time there by Capreo Digital. If you know anyone who's doing business, who runs a small business and is struggling with marketing, is struggling to keep up an online presence, send them our way and we'll have a chat with them. What's nice is that we are offering a free consultation for the next 3 months. So don't sleep on that. We have some pretty talented people. If you are not looking to make a marketing investment right now, but just have a chat with us. And once you are ready to conduct marketing, you'll have the reports that you'll get from our free consultation session that we'll give you after doing your marketing audit and knowing exactly. So it's like going to the doctor and the doctor diagnosing you, saying, okay, now this is what's wrong with you. This is what you need to do, gives you pills. So that's exactly what you're going to do for you. This is that free consultation. That is what it looks like. It's you coming through. We audit your business. We audit your online presence if you have any. And yeah, we just give you a way forward when it comes to this marketing. Anyway, back to the Foundry. So now I spent a couple of weeks just breaking my brain, trying to figure out, how am I going to improve this thing? How am I going to do better? What is the end goal here? Because we've put out 5 episodes. So what have we gotten from those 5 episodes? What has been the reception? What has been the response? How are people reacting to this thing? How are we feeling about this thing? Do we have the capacity to continue with this thing, or can we improve the way we do things to be more efficient so that we can, alleviate the pressure when it comes to productive capacity? So I break my brain trying to figure out all these things. And then eventually, I think what disturbed all that is the fact that I came home. And so that disturbed my entire routine. And I just took some time to just settle in being home and try and figure out where my mind is at in terms of Foundry Lab. And yeah, in the meantime, I was just pushing a lot of Capreo Digital. So that's been that. But now, in my sitting down and being back at the drawing board, I figured out that there's so much going on in my life, and I'm going to burn out real soon if I don't manage it accordingly, And so if you are my day one, or if you care about me, you don't want to see me burn out. And so I trust that you will accept me coming to the decisions that I've come to, and that is, one of them is, the podcast is now going to drop bi-monthly, and that simply means twice a month, So I'm going to be posting on the first Monday of every month and on the last Monday of every month. So I'm still figuring out the content around that, but what I have in mind is that, so nothing is changing in terms of the content. We are just changing the frequency in which we post, So first Monday of every month, we drop, what did I say that content is going to be about now again? So first Monday, we are looking at issues and affairs in and around the continent. We're going to be following stories that are related to what we are trying to achieve here at the Foundry Lab. And we're just going to bring you those stories. And obviously, we're going to bring you those stories with our own little kick to it. We're going to add our own value to the story that we're going to be bringing to you. Because now, these stories, they have been done by other people. So we're gonna take them and give our perspective on it, given the Foundry vision. I believe by now we should know what we are trying to achieve here with the Foundry Lab and the Foundry as a parent company. I've never explicitly said what Foundry is in terms of its structuring, but yeah, the Foundry is a parent company that houses Foundry Lab, and it houses a couple of other stuff that we have in the pipeline. And so yeah, that is just the content. I just wanted to say something else, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I'm going to get into that. But let me just finish this thought first. So now we're going to be posting twice a month, and we're focusing on current affairs, and we're also still focused on what we think as Foundry, as an organization, as an institution, because Foundry is an institution. So we're going to be sharing stories that are happening in and around the continent and sharing our perspective and our opinions on the current affairs, and also just what we think should be done about certain things that are happening in the continent, because our first love is Africa. Before we start looking at international affairs or international stuff that are happening, let's start here in the continent. So we're going to be highlighting young African people that are doing the most and just follow their stories. And as we grow, we're going to reach out to them, because now I tried to reach out to a couple of people, but I realized that also it's too soon for us to be doing those interviews, to be saying, okay, we are doing interviews. I think now what you're going to see from us is a lot of monologues from me, and you're going to be seeing a lot of episodes with myself and Zane. So we're going to focus on that right now, and not focus on bringing in external people, and interviewing them. That is going to come at a later stage, once we've built up some traction, and once we've reached the level we want to get to. Because I was looking at my content. Well, the whole thing is the pressure, and I think that's one of the things that we need to learn as creatives, because you go in there in a space that is saturated, because there are a lot of creators out there. So we go in there, going in with what we have. Some of us, we don't have an entire production crew behind, behind the camera or behind the audio or whatever. So we go in there with what we have, and then some other person comes in, they just started their own thing. And okay, this is a bit personal, because I follow Amahle Jax. So I follow her, and I love that girl. I love her content. And then she starts a podcast, and I look at the quality of that thing, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life, So I look at that, and I'm not gonna lie, it discouraged me for like a moment. And the whole break was not about that, though. It was just about the stuff that I've mentioned. So that happens. That also throws me off, and it became one of the things that threw me off. And so now I spend a couple of days just picking myself up as to, yeah, you know what, man, you have a plan, stick to the plan. Whether your visuals are looking blurry right now, or your colors are off, or whatever, it's fine. It's fine. We'll look back one day when we have Diary of a CEO level type of podcast. We'll look back on these days, on these first few episodes, and we'll laugh, and we'll also give ourselves a pat on the back for working so hard and getting to that level. So that's how I consoled myself. That's how I got the courage, not the courage, because the courage has always been there, but just that drive again, to do this thing, to sit down and push content. Because now I was enjoying the background work, the back end work for way too long. I was enjoying it so much, and I forgot that I also need to be in front of the camera, because that's also part of my job. So as a startup founder, and yeah, just an overall creator, and all things building, So I am forced to wear a couple of hats. So this is my reality, and it's fun when it's fun. It's exhausting when it's exhausting, and it's heartbreaking when it's heartbreaking. So it's all kinds of things, but nonetheless, we enjoy the process. So that is all I really wanted to announce for this episode. This is not an official episode like where we are sharing ideas. This is just me making these announcements, and I feel as though I am forgetting something. So please just give me a second to go through my notes live on air just to show how unprepared I am. No, I'm joking. I prepared for this thing a couple of days ago, but then I just didn't. I let too many days go by without me actually introducing it. So yeah, the main points for this episode are just to introduce the fact that we'll be doing only 2 episodes per month right now, just until we can figure out, our rhythm, get a rhythm. Maybe we might hit you with a bonus episode and make that three episodes in a month. It'll depend how the month is going, and how we are feeling. And okay, that was wrong for me to say how we are feeling, because we don't do things based on feelings here. We do things based on vision and a mission, and understanding that we need to do these things because nobody's going to do them for us. So I'm wrong for saying based on how we feel. But yeah, it's going to be that we are strictly on two episodes per month. And if we are feeling nice, yeah, sure, we'll drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, I was saying first Monday, what to watch, spotlighting young builders, unfolding stories, terms to know. We're gonna unpack it all in the first episode. So on the last Monday, that's the Africa Wrap. We are reflecting on the month's big events and how they tie to Foundry's vision. Again, we are an institution. Anything that we are doing, it's gonna be tied to our vision, and also just for the care and benefit of African people just in general, because we wouldn't be here if we didn't see that there's something wrong and someone needs to fix it. We need to stop saying that we need to stop waiting for a savior, and be the change that we want to see in the world. Or rather, let's not even say the world right now. Let's start right here in our own backyard. Be the change that you want to see in South Africa. Once you've seen the change in South Africa, let's be the change that you want to be in the continent, that you want to see in the continent. So you get the gist of this thinking. Another thing that I have a big issue with is podcasts, and that is what I am trying to do differently with this podcast. I don't want a podcast where we're just going to be talking about stuff and not doing anything about stuff, So hence, Foundry has been structured intentionally to speak about stuff, but also do stuff about it. Because like I said earlier on in the episode, is that Foundry the Foundry is a parent company, and underneath are subsidiaries that deal with various stuff that address African problems. For instance, let's make an example with Foundry Lab, because Foundry Lab is also a subsidiary of the Foundry. So now what we are trying to do here is spark conversation and forge thoughts in conversation. Just like metal is forged in fire to make it what we know, or to make castings of various sizes, be it, I can't think of stuff right now, but we forge metal in fire to make something, whatever it is. So now here we are forging thoughts and conversation to get closer to the truth, to get closer to the solutions, to get closer to a sovereign Africa, to get closer to an independent Africa, to get closer to an Africa that has its own vision, to get closer to an Africa that is a superpower, to get closer to an United States of Africa, So those are the conversations that we are trying to spark. That is the change that we are trying to bring about through the conversations, So that is just Foundry Lab. And then there's a couple of stuff that I don't want to mention right now that are still in development. And in due time, once we see what is happening within those projects, then yeah, we're gonna dive deeper into them. But there's so many other stuff that is happening because Foundry is an ideas and innovation lab. So what that does is that we are a think tank. So we are improving stuff through thought, applying our minds to a problem, you know? Because the issue right now with a whole lot of startups and a whole lot of young business people is that we are coming up with apps and all kinds of stuff that don't address the problems that we are facing here in Africa. So let's try and change that. So Foundry is a vehicle to try and change that. So what you can do is get behind us and help us build, help us to get to that point, help us to solve these problems. You know, you never know, just you commenting in the comment section and sharing your view after an episode, after watching an episode, or if something triggers you, just share it there. You never know what the next person might read that and translate it to, you know, and maybe it's just what somebody needed to hear, or it's just it's the spark that was needed to ignite this entire fire. And so that is what I'm trying to achieve here. That is what we are trying to do with the Foundry Lab. And so there's too much at stake. There's a lot at stake. So I can't just do things even when they don't feel right. Because I mentioned, I can't remember which episode it was, but I spoke about how you can be strategic all you want, but if you are being strategic in the wrong thing, then everything is just gonna go to, you know, the pits. It's not gonna work out. It's like there's a grand scheme of things. Oh yes, I worded it this way. There's a grand scheme of things, and if you don't have things right, I can't remember what I said, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. Do the right things, you know, because a lot of people, we wonder, we say we've been consistent, I've been doing this all my life, whatnot, I've been trying, I've been working hard, but maybe you're just working hard at the wrong thing. Whereas if you could just switch the thing that you are working hard at and shift to another thing, maybe you will achieve success faster than faster than you could have imagined, you know, faster than you would have in that thing. Because clearly the fact that you needed to change, it was not working. The fact that you were frustrated, it was not working. So you needed to change. So now maybe just there, now that you are in the right thing, it just accelerates you. You know, you see yourself, you see yourself in places that you never imagined that you could have been in. So Africa needs saving, but who is the hero we turn to? For me, the hero or the heroes that we need to be turning to is ourselves. When I say ourselves, I say us, young people, because there's so many old people that are just screwing the country and the continent, you know. So those people need to go, you know, but they can't go if we as young people are not thinking about these things, if we are not engaging in such conversations, if we are not prepared. And so with Foundry and the Foundry Lab and every other subsidiary under the Foundry, it exists to prepare us for that future where we now have to take up these positions of power and be adults, be the people in power, be the people that actually bring change, be the people that are in charge of the governance of a country, that are in charge of the efficient running of a business. You know, wherever you find yourself and it's a position of leadership, how have you prepared yourself to be in that position? If you are given a position right now, are you in the best position to take that opportunity, to take up that position of leadership? And will you lead the people correctly? Will you lead them? Will you give them everything that they need? You know, or are you just there to serve your interests and yourself, that you forget about the people that you are actually in this position to serve? So if that's not the case, then you are just like the leaders we have right now. And so sit down. We don't need you. With that said, this has been the Foundry Lab. I'll see you on the next episode.